renewable energy is only for mitigation, reducing emissions. But this is not true. Renewable energy is not just for reducing emissions. It's far more than that. It has a lot of interesting roles to play. Renewable energy has an important role to play in development as well as adaptation and building resilience. We have renewable energy as both serving as an energy service and non-energy service. Renewables are supposed to be used both for lighting, cooling, heating, electricity supply. And then I hope some of us have seen all these technologies that you combine solar panel powers for irrigation. I have a friend in Nigeria, Iritech company. They use solar power for irrigation. And this is something that we are also proposing to the Moroccan government, because through the WISER program, I was able to know that. And we are proposing to them to think of solutions like this: irrigation, solar powered irrigation. And then we also need renewables for water storage, for passive cooling. One of our trainers in this section has a company dedicated to cooling, dedicated to work that has to do with cooling food systems. So you can find out that renewables are not just, it's not just for power. Yes, it needs for all aspects, for education, for water treatment, for everything. Renewables should be for everything. All right, let's get to the somebody was saying that we are ambitious, but I think we are not ambitious enough. And IRENA agrees with me. He says we are not ambitious enough. Why? Because we've had all these ambitions on paper. We need to implement them. We need to implement these ambitions that we are talking about. Countries have plans. And then, Nigeria has developed the Nigerian Energy Transition Plan. Zambia has the master plan, the rural electrification plan. I was studying that previously. They haven't even gotten to 1/4 of the projects because they classify their electrification plan in different sectors, in different packages. They haven't even reached 1/4 of the packages that they have planned, and the execution date is, the execution year is 2030. They haven't assessed 1/4. So, and they are demanding $50 million, 50 billion every year. Nigeria is demanding 10 billion annually too, to be able to reach this 100% energy transition. But what's the problem? The problem is implementation. So this is why we need to not just accelerate our ambitions, we need to start the actions now. And with these kind of sections, we are calling everyone. So everyone here, I'm sure some of us are already working in the industry, you're working in policy, finance. We need to really get it out there that renewable energy needs more supplement funds. We need actions. We need us to take actions. We need us to do the things that we need to do to be able to reach where we need to reach the net zero carbon emissions, especially now that the climate change crisis is happening faster. So if we don't make any changes to the way we consume energy, greenhouse emissions will increase and they will surpass the baseline energy scenario. And this is in 2015. But then if we put in current plans, we can only be around this planned energy scenario. Then if we do not make any plans at all, I mean that we would have as much as, the GT, that's the gigatons of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere will be massive. So we really need to, thank you very much, Peter. So we really need to get this out there. We need to remove these things. We need to remove this carbon, these gigatons of CO2. If we don't do this, we will not even be able to remove 36.5. 36.5, with the current ambition that we have now, we can remove 36.5. But we need to accelerate it to be able to remove as much as 46.5, to be able to live in a world where you can freely breathe in clean air. I know some of us in Port Harcourt, it was a struggle at a point in time. If not that, the government had to intervene for them to shut down all these unsystematic ways of refining oil. And the funny thing is that we humans are the ones that are causing this. We need to educate people, and this is why advocacy is here. Awareness is here. We need to advocate. We need to get it out there. We need to call people to actions. As youth, we need to send the message out there that we have to do this together. The government cannot do this for us. We have a role to play, and that is the thing that's our next thing, because some people think it's just left for engineers. Some think it's just for scientists alone. But I'm here to tell you that climate action is for everybody. And with this, we are going to actually be introducing our work, but I will round up with this, and I will send out a poll to us, because there is an activity that we will need to engage in. But before that, let me just give you a breakdown of all the roles that we have to play. Isn't this amazing? I mean, like, as young people, we need to understand that we have a role. We have this critical role to play. We have the energy. We need to be brazen. Young people are audacious. Young people need to be audacious and ambitious enough to be able to create a strong impact. I mean, like, just like Inutu is saying, well, whole-rounded action, we need to create a stronger impact. We need to get out there and tell these people that, especially those that are the elderly people that already know, one thing is they usually think that since they've been sustained with this system, they feel that they just need to keep being in that system to be able to sustain it. No, they need to understand that irregardless of your background, irregardless of your passion or your skills, you have a role to play. You have a role as educators, you have a role as policy experts, we have a role as advocates, we have a role as activists, we have a role as educators, we have a role as artists and content creators. I mean, like, name it. We have professionals and energy workforce. We have roles to be entrepreneurs, business managers, to be researchers, to be innovators, to be inventors, to be communicators. Like, there are innumerable roles that we can take on to be able to be passion is left for you. The action is left for you. We need to get everybody to this. And we are I'm ending this particular section with a call of action to every one of us, because the next activity, it's like a call of action. So please, on the chat box, because we will not have so much time to be able to dive into the breakout sections, but we have that at the end of this section. So since we cannot do an elevator pitch on why we need to address, but please write it on the chat box. Why do you think we need to address this climate change urgently and transition to energy and transition our energy system? With that, I'm going to share with us a little video while our climate storyteller, our conservation and climate storyteller, Mr. Sydney Opio, will be on stage. But before we call him forward, I'm going to share with us a little video. Thank you so much for staying put. Yeah, if you have questions, please put on the chat box and we'll be taking them. Okay, and yeah, true. Yes, if you have contributions, all right, it's just that we might not be able to take everyone's contributions at once. but if you drop it on the chat box, we can be able to read it out, and everyone can be able to get into it. Okay, let me see. Oh, wow, that's impressive. How does renewable energy lead to afforestation? So renewable energy is not, okay, so afforestation is like planting more trees, right? And it's deforestation now that contributes to climate change. So with more trees being planted, we can be able to use those trees to curb the emissions in the atmosphere. So we know basic photosynthesis, plants inhale carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. So the more we cut down trees, the more we are sending back the carbon dioxide that should have been breathed, that should have been respirated by the plants into the atmosphere. So the energy transition is like incorporating more trees, because the energy transition, the goal of the energy transition is to reach a net zero carbon neutral economy. So with that, when you have renewable energy, it's when you have more trees planted, you would be able to contribute more to the net zero, because the aim is to have a net zero carbon economy, not just to have renewable energy everywhere, but the major aim is to have net zero carbon neutral economy. I see that on the chat box, if we can translate in French. Well, for now, we made this section more on English, but subsequently we can try to send you something via email. Thank you so much. I think, sorry, it's not Sydney that would come up next. We have Delight Chigeru, and I see she's already on the call. So let me pull up her profile and I'll read to you. We can skip the poem for now. After Ms. Chigeru's presentation, we can take the poem. Yeah, we can take the short video. Please, let me read out her profile and then we can get right into just a minute. Okay. Okay. Please bear with me. She's already here. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. Okay. Let me share that now. Okay. All right, let me, please give me the honor. I know our moderator is still on the call, but I want to have the honor to introduce Ms. Chigeru to us. Chigeru Alerichi Delight is a Nigerian environmentalist and climate activist. She's the founder of an urgent concern environmental initiative, a thriving climate change education organization in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. And through her work of transformational activism and education, she mobilizes people to take action for the planet. Some of our impact-based and solution-oriented projects include the Port Harcourt Climate Education Conference, which involved major stakeholders in environment, education, media, climate change education webinars for undergraduate students, street market sensitization, and recycle and chill, which was a teach-in picnic bettered from her constantly inventing relatable ways to bring climate change education to young people. She is passionate about the education and involvement of young people in climate action, and she presented a paper, Not Too Young to Enforce Positive Climate Action, at the Association for Environmental Impact Assessment of Nigeria's 6th Annual Conference in November 2022, and was awarded for the best paper presentation at the conference. Wow. With key topics in climate change, plastic pollution, impact accumulation, and general views on pollution, her blog has amassed hundreds of readers from across 21 countries. With a warm welcome and with a round of applause, let's make welcome Ms. Chigero for her climate presentation. You're welcome. Feel free to take the floor. Yeah, we can hear you. Is your microphone on? Oh, we still can't hear you. Can you check your settings? Yeah, we see that you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Maybe you can try rejoining. Can you, okay, let me play for us a short poem. Are you hearing me? Hello? Okay, let me play for us a short poem while she sorts out her.
How do we save the world? We lay in our beds curled into question marks, wondering what can we do? Where do we start? Is hope a glue crazy enough to hold us together while we're falling apart? The burden seems immense, but we can do this. We must take the martial arts approach to loving our planet, love as self-defense. Forget about the cost. There will be no other thing as worth saving as this. Nothing more important, nothing as precious. This is home. All of our stories start and end here. We are sheltered within an atmosphere that has given us every breath we will ever take. Every monument we will ever make has come from the flesh of our planet. Water like blood, skin like soul, bone like granite. It is not a myth. There is
Ms. Delight, you have the floor. Apologies, just a minute and she would get right on.
How do we save the world? We lay in our beds curled into question marks, wondering what can we do? Where do we start? Is hope a glue crazy enough to hold us together while we're falling apart? The burden seems immense, but we can do this. We must take the martial arts approach to loving our planet, love as self-defense. Forget about the cost. There will be no other thing as worth saving as this. Nothing more important, nothing as precious. This is home. All of our stories start and end here. We are sheltered within an atmosphere that has given us every breath we will ever take. Every monument we will ever make has come from the flesh of our planet. Water like blood, skin like soil, bone like granite. It is not a myth. There is no debate. Facts are in. Fact is, there's never been any question. We are facing crisis.
Okay, I think we'll move to the next module. Our next module will be presented by Miss Mary. Let me pull up her profile right away. Miss Mary, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Oh, hello. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Ms. Adeze, you can take over. Let me pull up her profile immediately.
Hello, everyone. I'm sure we've all been having a fantastic time. I can see I think we need to give Miss Shalom Ibo some more fire emojis because she literally brought the roof down. Like there were a lot of takeaways, a lot of lesson learned. Just some more fire emojis for Miss Shalom before we go right into our next speaker while we wait for her bio to be read. So just waiting for her bio to come up so I can just read her very interesting bio. We have very seasoned speakers this morning. We want to say a very big thank you to our first speaker. It was really, really, really insightful. Like if you see my notepad right now, I had a lot of things to write and take down. A lot of myths were demystified, and I'm sure we are all fired up to go back and take action. All right, so let me read Miss Mary's profile. Mary Dora Karama is currently pursuing an international master's degree in energy and green hydrogen technology. She's involved in various roles, such as she's the co-founder of Magreen, a data analyst and a geologist. Her career is driven by deep passion for climate change and energy, and she's dedicated to using has skills and knowledge to educate, advocate, and contribute to the ongoing fight against climate change. With a round of applause in our comment section, let us give it up for Miss Mary Dora Karama. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Adeze, for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone. Welcome again. This is module 2, and we'll be focused. The name of the module is Climate and Energy Trends. So I'll go straight to the module. IACT module 2, Energy and Climate and Energy Trends. Oh, thank you, everyone. Yeah, so I hope we're all ready to learn something new. That was a nice one from Shalom. It was very interactive and educative. I enjoyed a lot. Like, I just felt like after her teaching or her training, she should call me like an expert. I hope we'll get that from this module too. First of all, I want to start by explaining that at the end of this module, hopefully, I believe that we'll have a clear understanding of why climate change is happening, and we'll also get to know about the impact of climate change on our planet, in our countries, of course, yeah. And then we'll also get to know the contribution of energy sectors to increasing emissions. And finally, we'll get to know the trends in renewable energy sources. Yeah. Next slide, please. So, yeah, so I don't know. Can we please go back to the first slide? Thank you. Good. So I don't know if we've ever heard about climate and weather, if we know anything about it. So can just send like what you know about climate and weather on the group chats for us to like know what your understanding about it, please, if you have any idea, before I go to it and explain everything in detail. You guys should not disappoint me. I know some people know. Okay, so it looks like nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to talk. Okay. Okay, let me see whether I reverse to the daily conditions of region. Yeah. Climate, any idea? Okay, climate, any idea? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Madam, let's go to the next slide so we can have a bit of what I'm trying to say. Of course, climate is a short-term changes in the atmosphere, as explained. Oh, okay. I don't know how to call it. Is it Enoch? Yeah. Enoch actually sent a message on the chat. Yeah, whilst climate is like a long term, it's the changes of behavior of an environment or atmosphere over a long period of time. So yes. So when we refer to climate change in total, just combining the whole thing, we're talking about the long-term changes, like the long-term changes in average of daily weather at a regional and local levels. Let's say in country base, in like a village, in like a town. So that's what accumulates to having the whole climate change, and daily weather at regional and global. So we can also think about it from a global scale or global idea. So we're definitely seeing an increase in average temperatures across the globe due to human activities. I guess Shalon has explained a lot about that on the previous module. And again, I want to emphasize on the importance of climate and weather, like to be able to distinct them, to know like their differences, because it is like a common misconception that is used, you know, by climate deniers, people that are saying climate change is a myth, to confuse people like that are less familiar to the whole climate change. Yeah, to the whole climate change space or topic. Yeah, so next slide, please, Shalom. Shalom, next slide, please. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the greenhouse gas effect. I don't know if everybody has, if we've ever had, if anybody has heard about greenhouse gas effects. Okay, so the greenhouse gas effect is actually, it comprises of gases that cause climate change. Actually, okay, somebody's saying they've heard about it. It's like, it's actually good for our planet, you know, but on a norm, we know too much of everything is not good. So greenhouse effect is actually good for the planet, and it keeps its life like livable, and it helps us to warm the planet and to keep it suitable or sustainable for our life, for us to live in it. So however, like human activities has led to like a dramatic increase in these greenhouse gas effects, because like that has led to like harmful warming, which has led to this global warming. So I want to like explain it in detail. So like how does this greenhouse gas effect works? So like 70% of the radiation from the sun passes through the atmosphere and reaches the earth. It reaches the earth's surface, where it is absorbed and it helps to eat the planet, which is good for human activities or human life. So this heat that is absorbed by the planet, that is absorbed into the planet that helps us, is also, it is then radiated back as infrared radiation. And then most of the radiation, around 90%, which is like excess on a norm for normal living condition, we should have around 70% of the greenhouse gas that should come to the atmosphere, keep us livable, for the planet to be livable. But so far as the moment it passes 70%, exceeds to 90%, when it comes with a lot of harmful reactions, or it becomes a whole lot more like that will be like excess of the normal thing that we need in the atmosphere. So this leads to further warming, it leads to problems, it leads to diseases, it leads to sicknesses, it leads to the climate warming, leading to climate change. So the main greenhouse gas effects, yes, exactly. So the main greenhouse gases are like, they include carbon dioxide, they include methane, they include nitrous oxygen, they include fluorinated gases and water vapor. Yeah, so scientists have analyzed that the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, with data going on like back like 800,000 years ago, that's from ice core records, they have found that in the concentration, they have found that the concentration now, the concentration of this greenhouse gas, like is high, like it has been the highest that has been ever seen in like 800 years, since 800 years, like 800 years ago. They have found that it is highest. So like even over the past centuries, human activities have caused a whole lot of things that has contributed to it has accumulated to like 4,000, 400 parts per million. That's like over 400 molecules of greenhouse gas per million molecule of here. So compared to like 800,000 years ago, they were just talking about 200 to 280 parts per million. Now we're talking about 400. So you see the gap from 200 to 80 to 4,000 to 400, sorry, parts per million. This is really, really not good. And we'll see the dramatic, we see the dramatic increase of this greenhouse gas effects on our planet. Okay, before we go to the next slide, I want to like ask us like to give an example of these human activities that I've been talking about in this slide that are leading to greenhouse gas effects. Can anybody share with me? Anybody? We need to be active on the chat box, please. This is like, okay, burning, okay, wow, interesting, okay, wow. This is good, okay, yeah, okay, thank you for the response. Thank you. Yeah, so we go to the next slide. Yeah, using, okay, yeah. Using private cars, yeah. We go to the next slide. Yeah, so for agricultural, yes, that's good. That's good. Yeah, so human activities are more, okay, combustion effect due to carbon. Yes, yes. So there are a whole lot of activities that, okay, there are a whole lot of human activities that they are leading to these greenhouse effects. So to start with, we have industrial activities, such as burning fossil fuel, as mentioned on the chat box, fossil fuel power for power generation, heating, transportation, as well as large-scale agricultural practices, of course, and removal, distribution of large forested areas. I think Shalom made mention of deforestation when she was presenting on when she was teaching the first module. Yeah. So we're going to the next slide, which is like the key impacts of climate change. So definitely we all know that the warming we're seeing is already caused by widespread, like it's caused by a widespread of impact and distributors globally. It's not actually just happening in Africa, it's also happening in Europe, it's also happening in Asia, it's happening everywhere in the world. So it is like widespread, like it's causing, the impacts are everywhere. So yeah. Okay, I think we're in the next slide now, which are the key impacts. Yeah. So the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is IPCC, brings together scientists from all over the world, yeah, bring scientists from all over the world to like do research, to write papers, to talk, to like find solutions to all these impacts. So in 2022, like they published a report on the impacts of the impact of climate change, adaptation, vulnerabilities, and which draws from about like 34,000 studies and it involves like about 270 authors, which were like presently, who were working on this impact, like on these reports. These authors are like from 67 countries, and they highlighted very important impact, which we're seeing. I'm sure one way or the other, we will say that one of these, if not more, plenty, you will say at least one is actually happening in your country or in a place where you know somebody. So the report finds that even at 1.1, we're currently at 1.1 degrees. We're seeing an increase in droughts, like extreme heat and floods. I'm from Sierra Leone, and during the raining season, like every year we have reports on flooding. That's from Africa. We have reports on flooding, of course, in countries like there are countries that also go through droughts, increase in droughts every year, which leads to a whole lot of problems and like food shortage and other things. And also food security, another impact, according to the report, food security and livelihood threats for millions of people. We also have, okay, somebody's saying something, unfortunately, Africa is suffering. Yes, exactly. We're not contributing a lot, but we are suffering a whole lot. Yeah, but that's how it is. Climate change is affecting globally, whether you contribute more or whether you contribute less, it just affects. And then another impact is the displacement of people from their homes every year, like since 2008, like floods have forced more than 20 million people from their houses. So if there's a flooding, you definitely have to move. If it takes away your house or properties and other things, you definitely have to vacate. So this is really bad. And also climate change is also leading to food shortages, like crop production in Africa shrunk by a third as a result of climate change. Yeah, before we used to like know statistics as to when you should start cultivating, but now you don't even know when the rainy season will start and when the dry season ends and whatever. So it brings a lot of confusion. So like you don't even know what to do, when to do. The day that let's say you decide to plant your crops or to grow your crops in this month, when that's not the ideal time. You definitely not yield more fruit or crops, or you definitely not reap a lot of things at the end of the day. So that will lead to like shortage, and you'll not be able to like produce what you're used to. And also the report shows that half of the people on the planet face water insecurity at least once, 1 month per year. Yeah, in my country, it happens to like during the dry season. There are times that if you don't wake up by 5 a.m. to go, in fact, when you get to the place where you want to fetch water, you have to queue because you meet a lot of people waiting to fetch water. So there's that time in the year that you definitely have to face water shortage, of course, a whole lot of things. And again, we have wildfires are causing irreversible landscape damages in larger areas, of course, in different countries, in different places than ever before. We have vector and waterborne diseases are being spread all over the world. Of course, malaria, cholera. We know reports are definitely showing that the increase in all those sicknesses gets like increased by the day, like every month, by the year. And again, the impact on species and ecosystem has led to many animals experiencing die-offs, extinctions, and migrations. Let's say after cutting down of trees, some animals will not be able to like move, they'll die. Some will like extinct, some will like die on process, and some might migrate, which is not good, because take it or leave it, we need these species in our ecosystem. We need them in our environment. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, next we'll be talking about the risk, like how temperature variation no, next slide, we'll talk about, yeah, how do risk vary by temperature rise? I think Shalom started explaining about this whole thing, about this temperature rise in the next, and the previous section. Can you please mute your mic, please? Okay, thank you. Okay, just a fraction. So just a fraction of a degree can have minor impacts, like can have minor implications for the risks posed by climate change. According to IPCC reports, it shows that there are different risks posed by the 1.5, 2 degree and 3 degree temperature rise, and it is summarized in the charts above. So for example, for 1.5 degrees Celsius, you see that we have 0.95 billion people living in dryland areas, which will be exposed to like sun stress, heat, desertification. And at 3 degrees, the number increases to like 1.29 billion people. So this is why it is really important for us to try to target the 1.5 degrees Celsius as at 2030. Yeah, next slide, please. Thank you. So for now, okay, let's go back. I just want us to think about renaming climate change. If you like have the opportunity to think to change the name of climate change, because we know that it is very important. There's a poll that has been sent. You can send your name, the name that you want, that you feel if we give to climate change will help us to have like urgency. People will people will feel like we're very important about addressing climate change. You can actually, of course, I see people are sending their answers already. Give like a name, a suitable name that you know will help, that you believe will help. Just, yeah, we'll read the names later. Okay. I see everybody is busy. Yeah, so we go to the next slide, which will talk on the energy sectors account for like 3/4 of greenhouse gases. I want us to know that the energy sector is like the biggest, is the biggest cause of raising greenhouse gas emissions, and alone responsible.
Sorry to cut in, Mary.
Yeah.
Let's just give our participants some seconds or a minute, okay, so they can take the poll. There's a poll actually.
Okay, sure.
So kindly just in a minute, I'm sure we've all seen the poll that has already been sent out. Just kindly answer so our presenter can move on. Thank you so much. All right, Mary, over to you. Hello, Mary. Mary, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you can take over. I'm sure our participants are done with the poll.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're now going to the energy sector, which accounts for like 1/3 of greenhouse gas emission. So I think it's after everything that we've talked about, we'll agree that the energy sector, is the biggest cause of rising greenhouse gas emission. And it's like The energy sector alone is responsible for over 3/4 of the emission, followed by agriculture, if you see in the chart, followed by agriculture, and then which contributes for like 12% of the global emission. In 2019, this is actually a report from 2019. And this means that changing how we meet our energy needs will be like a key, will be the key for addressing climate change and limiting the warming that is happening all over the world. So this is why I'm happy that IACT initiative is really putting more, like is focusing on the energy sector, like is really trying to, is really talking, this training is based, like it's focused on addressing how we can meet our energy needs with renewables instead of and changing how we meet our energy needs. So next we'll be talking about how we need to transition to using energy from renewable energy sources. So I want us to know that, next slide, please. Yeah, I want us to know that renewable energy is actually energy that we can actually get from natural resources. Yeah, natural resources, they can be replenished, and they are quickly, it can be replenished more quickly than they are consumed, or like fossil fuels, like that takes millions of years for them to be replenished, or it even takes our lifetime. So there are main forms of renewable energies, and these are bioenergy, geothermal, hydropower, ocean, solar, and wind energy. So solar energy comes from the sun, and we can use it to generate electricity or heat. Yeah, I think Shalom was talking about solar panels. So yeah, the solar panels, they will have likely seemed to, we can actually use them on our rooftops, even on our buildings. And this is what we call solar, we call it photovoltaics, solar photovoltaics, or solar PVs. I don't know if you've heard about solar PVs or solar photovoltaics. So here, the light from the sun, how does this work? The light from the sun is converted to make electricity. So concentrated solar PV, like CSP, uses like mirrors to concentrate the heat from the sun to heat up fluids. Typically, like water and steam is used to like drive a turbine to produce electricity. We can also use solar energy directly from heating, for example, with solar water heaters. Yeah, so in the case of wind energy, the wind current turns a blade, which in turn splits a shaft, which connects to a generator and makes electricity. So similarly, hydropower uses water to like drive turbines and generate electricity. In some configurations, like dams and reservoirs are used to store water for a long period of time. So Shalom made mention of us bringing innovations of storage system, trying to innovate, bringing innovation that will help us to like store our energy for times that we know our energy will not be able to like work, like for, let's say for solar during the rainy season, we know the sun will not be shining, and for hydropower during the dry season, we know it does not rain. So if we can find a proper way to store our energy, then it will be able to last us. So for bioenergy, it uses the energy stored in organics, like in organic matter, to generate heat, or electricity. It can also be used as a fuel for transportation. So broadly speaking, it comes in three forms. We have solar biofuels, that's like burning of wood, charcoal. We have burning of wood, charcoal, or agricultural residue to generate it. We have liquid biofuels, which is, for instance, fuel that is made from crops, which can be used as an alternative to petrol. Please, Emmanuel, if you have any questions, you can ask it on the group chat. Yeah, and also we have biogas. Biogas is actually generated from the breakdown of organic matter, such as sewages or waste, which can then be used to generate energy. For geothermal energy, it's energy that is used from heat derived underground well, like it is derived from the heat that is derived from underground wells with water and or steam carry geothermal energy into the earth's surface. So finally, for like tides or oceans, for ocean energy, this is like energy that we get from tide, waves, and currents from oceans that can be used to produce energy. So next slide, please. So for renewable energy, it brings a lot of benefits for people, for the planet, and for prosperity. So one of the main benefits of renewable energy is that it can help us to fight climate change, as it produces zero or no okay, you can actually add it on the group chat, on the chat box, please, if you have any other things that you want to contribute. Thank you. So, thank you. So, the main benefit of renewable energy is it can help us to fight against climate change and produce no greenhouse gas emission. However, the benefits of renewable energy extends far beyond just climate change, climate migration, and renewables. In fact, it has many other positive impacts for people and the planet. So for example, lack of air pollution is also good for the environment and for our health. I'm sure the reason for more cholera and malaria is because of greenhouse gas emission, and greenhouse gas emission it contributes to climate change. So renewable energy is more easy to scale, and we have like a large grid connected project, but also you can start small. We can have small scale solutions when we need them. We can also compare this to fossil fuel generation, which is far less flexible. As a result, renewable energy can help us to expand energy access to remote locations that are far away from the national grid. Let's say for villages, we can just go plant some solar panels and then find a way to generate electricity. If they have water, we can do hydro, we can do dam, hydropower to generate electricity. So there are also many other positive impacts of household and communities in terms of service that energy can help to bring. Like it helps to bring education, health center, and agriculture, as well as new jobs. So this definitely, the job opportunities will be discussed in module 4, which is the Sustainable Development Goal. And of course, we all know renewable energy will not run out compared to fossil fuels, as it's being depleted. All countries, in a way, all countries have some sources of renewable energies that can be used to help with energy security. You might not have everything, but it's either you have sunlight, especially for most countries in Africa. It's either you have sunlight, or you have wind, or you have hydropower, or you have waste from bioenergy, waste from plants and other things. So there's definitely a potential for almost all countries from Africa especially to have renewable energy, for renewable energy sources. Next slide, please. So we're talking about renewable energy power capacity, how it has grown, because people will say, renewable energy is actually not okay. It's not okay because it is not good for now, maybe in 10 or 15 years from now. But I want us to know that renewable energy has actually grown drastically. Yeah, it has actually grown drastically. As it has reached like 81% in 2021. It has reached like 81%. This means that all the new power plants installed only like 19% use of fossil fuel and nuclear energy. So renewable energy is no longer a niche alternative power source. It is in fact becoming the dominant source of the future, because most countries are actually, in a way, in small scale developing. You see people in even countries that are having problems with electricity, they would prefer having their solar panels in their house, generate their own electricity, buy their own batteries, and move to renewables. So it has expanded to reach like 81%. And renewable energy, however, we still have a long way to go, because our aim is to like bring everybody on board. We don't even want the 19% of fossil fuels we don't want the remaining percentage to be there. We want everything to be 100% of renewable energy in order for us to be able to combat climate change and work towards our 1.5 degrees Celsius against 2030. Next slide. Power generation cost has fallen rapidly. Yes. So the growth in renewable power is being driven by many different factors, including the improving policies and regulations. So we'll also see that a rapid fall of power generation costs and renewable power generation has become competitive with, and in many cases, cheaper than fossil fuel or nuclear fuel. If you can see the statistics here that solar panel is actually increasing because everybody wants reliability. You know, if you're paying for electricity in a country and they are not giving you what you want, you rather invest the money on solar panel, buy your battery, and get the electricity that you want, that you know is reliable. So like most people are relying on solar panel nowadays. So they are buying their solar panel for their homes, for their offices, for industries. A lot of places, they are moving towards renewable energy to start because it's reliable. You have like the amount of energy, you will not be stressed. Electricity, when you need it, it will not be there. So you rather work on something that you know when you need your electricity, you will get it. So for the next slide, we'll talk about the innovation, which will be very important for scaling up renewable energy, as mentioned in the first module. Next slide, please. So I know that you may have heard that the saying that it is not possible to completely transition our energy system to one based on renewables, because of variability in climate conditions. What will we do if the sun is not shining, or the wind is not blowing, or during the dry season? So I want us to know that there are many innovations out there that can help us to integrate more variable renewable energy sources, such as solar and wind power, into our power systems. So these innovations include, in terms of enabling. Okay, what do you believe, please? Sorry. Okay, maybe that's not me. Yeah, so so these innovations include storage technologies, as well as other innovative business models and ways to design markets and operating power systems. Shalom was also talking about energy is more than just electricity. The people are being like, okay, energy is everything, it's just electricity, it's just electricity, you just need to have my house powered. But it's okay, it's okay. I get it now. So energy is more than just electricity. Can we go to the next slide, please? In fact, we use energy for not only generating power, but we can also use it in the transportation system sector. We use it for cooking, we use it for eating, we use it for cooling, and we also use it within sectors such as in the industry. So this is important to remember, because we need to transition our whole energy system, not just electricity. We need to transition our transportation. We need to transition our cooking, heating, cooling, and also we need to transition our industry. And by 2050, we need to change the energy sources we use if we want to limit the warming to 1.5 degrees. Next, yeah, so I want to lay more emphasis that if we really want to, if we're really serious, if we really want to limit warming to 1.5 degrees, we need to transition our energy system to one that is based on renewables. IRENA's analysis shows that by 2050, we will need to shift from energy consumption we see on the left to that of the right. So by 2050, I hope you're all seeing the chart, the diagram. So on the left instead of the right. Sorry, we'll go to the right instead of the left. Sorry. By 2050. By 2050, electricity will be like a main carrier with more than 50% direct share of total energy consumption. That's like up to 21%. That's from up to 21% in 2018, as seen on the diagram. And also by 2050, 90% of the total electricity need will be supplied by renewables, followed by 6% from natural gases and the remainder from nuclear. And another 8% of final energy will come from indirect electricity in the form of e-fuels and hydrogen. Somebody was talking about hydrogen, green hydrogen. So hydrogen also will come in the, if we're talking about the sources of energy consumption, definitely. So the next slide, we'll have to like work on something again. Next slide, please. So are we okay? So definitely we're seeing another okay, I see people are even answering without me explaining. Wow, that's interesting. People are really are active in this training. I see everybody's really ready. I think I'll give us some time to feel the form before I go to the next thing. Okay, I hope everybody has been able to like fill it out to give us an idea of because we really want to know your response. I hope everybody has been able to fill it out. Thank you, everyone. I'll have to stop here because of time and allow other trainers to continue. I hope this session has been very interactive. For those that have questions, you can actually send your questions and contributions on the group chat, and so we can talk about it. I see that the group chat has been really busy. People have been actively talking about.
All right. Thank you so much, Mary Dara Karama, for such a powerful training. I'm sure that we've all gotten value this morning. If you're just joining in, you're welcome. Although we're already done with our first session, but first and second session actually. But like they say, it's better late than never. So you're welcome. Hopefully, you'd get the recording. It depends on what the team decides anyway. All right. We'll move straight into our next activity for today. We'll be welcoming our very own storyteller, Sydney Opioyo, a climate and conversation artist. Sydney, are you in the house? Okay, I can see him. He's here already. So we'll go right into that. We welcome Sydney, who will take up the platform now. Sydney, over to you. Are you here? Can you hear me? I can see him, but I hope you can hear me. All right, Sydney, over to you. Okay, so while we wait for Sydney to come up, let me quickly read his bio, which is already up on the screen. Sydney is an environmental scientist, climate activist, and conversation photographer and storyteller with over 4 years experience in conservation. He is a conservation leader from Kenya, East Africa, who is passionate about working with young people to address disproportionate environmental challenges and enhance youth inclusion in policy spaces. He has a deep interest in working with youth at the grassroots level, youth inclusive governance and policy, conversation storytelling, and climate action. He works to champion meaningful youth engagement for climate action with a professional background in environmental studies and community development. Currently, his focal point for food security thematic group in UNCCD Youth Caucus, where he is responsible for leading the implementation of the initiatives and program of the food security thematic group in the UNCCD Youth Caucus. building relationships with key stakeholders, and serving as a liaison between the local communities and the thematic group. The UNCCD Youth Caucus is the formal dedicated youth engagement mechanism of the United Nations Conservation to combat desertification, UNCCD. So that's the meaning of the acronym UNCCD, the last line there. So with a round of applause on our comment session, let us make welcome the storyteller, the conservation photographer to today's event. Sydney, you're welcome. I hope your network is sorted out. The floor is yours.
Hi everyone. I hope I'm audible, am I?
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, that was a very elaborate introduction. So I think to begin, could you enable me share my screen?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yes, so again, thank you very much for having me. And thank you. Also, so I'll be talking about the role of photography and especially conservation storytelling in the energy and just transition dialogue. And yeah, just to begin with, I don't know if anyone knows what conservation photography is about or conservation storytelling is about. Anyone has an idea? Maybe on the comment section, could I see something? If anyone has an idea what storytelling, conservation storytelling is all about. Anyone who has an idea? Someone try. Anyone? I don't think there's a wrong answer, so just try. I'm just waiting for one comment and then I'll go ahead.
Is it about wildlife photographing and then getting messages from it?
Yeah, that's okay. Any other person? Any other person? Maybe just one last person.
Or maybe taking pictures from the woods, the forest.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, that is still okay. It was the use of pictures to raise awareness about the environment. Okay, that is okay. Covering environmental related or focused pictures to express events. Yes, Excel, that's okay. Yeah, so thank you very much. I think like all of you, I realize all of you actually know what conservation storytelling is. So in a nutshell, I think conservation photography, basically it's not necessarily about taking pictures because you could just take pictures and not maybe as a hobby or whatnot, but generally it's just about using images to be able to raise awareness, especially environmental issues. And most importantly is that to be able to inspire action. So what do your images speak about? If someone looks at your images, what do they get from the images that you have taken? So so I think it's just not photography, it's conservation photo that we're able to use images. Some people use art, some people use paintings, some people use writing and blogging. So that is still storytelling. But yeah, for me, I think my medium of storytelling is a use of stills and pictures and images to be able to communicate environmental issues and also be able to inspire action. Yeah, so I hope my slides are clear or that you're able to see them from your end, everyone. Yes, so on the current slide you can see what a brief explanation of what conservation photography is. And like I've said, it involves using photography to create awareness and motivate people and inspire people to take action and to advocate for the safeguarding of the environment. And also, like I've said, it's more than just creating aesthetically pleasing images, but the aim of those images is to be able to like tell impactful stories that promote like conservation efforts across the board. It emphasizes on the importance of like connecting with audiences and engaging them in conservation efforts through captivating visuals and compelling stories. So I think all of us are visual beings. I mean, yeah. So many of us are visual beings. So I feel like photography plays a very important role because sometimes you're not able to like, for example, sometimes you're not able to see a place or like seeing a place or yes, visiting a place or seeing a place is actually more than just hearing about it. So we can most of the times we can relate with pictures more than we can actually relate with words or what we hear. And probably when you see a picture, it suddenly like means something to you, and you get to have a relationship with it. And I think the important thing is not just to be able to like get images as a conservation photographer. It's more than just getting images, but what do you aim to use your images for? Like what do they communicate? What do you aim to achieve using those images? So moving to the next point. So as a conservation storyteller, there's a process. There's a process that you take to be able to like come up with a story. So as a storyteller, the first and most important thing is to be able to identify the issues. What are the issues? What are the current environmental issues that you want to tackle? And in this context, I think we're talking about the energy transition and yeah, just transition, like being able to move from like the use of fossil fuels into more renewable energy. And in that transition, I feel like as a conservation storyteller and photographer, we have a role to play in that dialogue and just being able to engage different stakeholders, the local communities, the governments, the climate activists, environmentalists, the governments, policy makers. So the process of doing that, of storytelling starts with identifying the issues. That what are the issues? Is that climate change? What is happening? How are communities getting affected by those like the climate change? So you identify what issue do you want to talk about. The next step is that you try and develop the story. Like what do you want to talk about? Yeah, and what angles do you want to take as you try to tell those stories? So the next step is to move to like crafting the stories, putting together the story that you want to tell. Like you at that point you also realize that is a point that you have to identify the medium that you want to use to tell the story. You're going to use like photography to tell that story. You're going to use articles, blogs. You're going to use videos and films. You're going to use like art, like paints and whatnot. So yeah, so at that point, that's where you identify what medium you want to use. Because for me, I really prefer photography because I, I think what you see sticks into your brain, like somebody has mentioned in the charts, that what you see sticks more in the brain compared to probably what you'd read or what you'd hear sometimes. So after crafting the story, how do you deliver that story? What is your audience? Yes. So you have to be able to identify the audience that you intend to inspire with your storytelling. And yeah, so that is why you identify what language, what form do you want to use to deliver the story. And that is actually very important, because why would you come up with a story when it can't resonate with the audience that you intend to have the story delivered to? That is actually very important. Identify the audience, yeah. Identify your audience and who like the consumers of the story. And then lastly is to inspire change. That what does your story, what is the effects, the influence of your story? So as a conservation storyteller, the end goal of like storytelling is to be able to inspire people to take action, like being able to probably telling stories about how communities are getting affected by climate change and food insecurity. The end goal of all that is to be able to inspire people to take action for the environment. That how can we make our society more food secure? How can we ensure there's adaptation and mitigation to climate change and its impacts? How are we ready for like some of those changes? So at the end of the day, the storytelling needs to inspire people to take action for the environment. Yes, so next is what are some of the elements of storytelling, especially on the just transition and energy dialogue? That what do we aim to capture in our storytelling? I think the most important thing as a conservation storyteller is to be able to center your storytelling around to have like human beings as the center of your story. Because I mean, some of these stories, even as we cover them in whichever places we cover them, we realize that we're not going to be telling these stories to animals, because the animals are not going to do anything about it. So the consumers of our stories are human beings. So we have to ensure that our storytelling is human-centered, yeah, because I think humans have a lot of impact and influence on the environment compared to any other living thing. So if you don't center your stories on have humans at the center of your stories, then it's most likely you probably doing it in vain, because after doing all these stories, I'm not going to probably host an event where I'm going to invite like the monkeys and the cows to come and listen. I'm going to be talking to human beings. They're the ones who are probably going to be able to take care of the environment and the animals and all the other living things. So I think most importantly is to have like human-centered conservation storytelling. And some of the elements of storytelling is like some of the things that we need to be capturing in our stories is to be able to talk about, give new angles. Maybe some of these stories have been told before, but as a conservation storyteller and looking at the dynamics in the conservation world, some of the changes that are currently happening, what new angles are you taking to be able to deliver your stories? New angles that you're able to communicate better some of these impacts of environmental degradation. Another element is to be able to use data in numbers. I mean, sometimes we talk about maybe impacts of environmental degradation on people, but I think that when you use numbers and data, it makes more sense, because now let's talk about, for example, like I've said, in the energy transition dialogue, you realize that the use of data is very important. And as a storyteller, I try to capture data that as you use images, yes, but let's talk about, for example, like people dying because of drought and floods. Numbers are very important because when you use numbers, we're able to inspire people to actually take action. I mean, look at numbers where you like there are millions of people who are dying every year because of anger and floods. I mean, look at 10 million, that is data. And that is a figure that you cannot actually ignore. So those are some of the elements that we try to incorporate into storytelling so that some of those figures actually inspire action. And people, if you realize that there are 10 million people who are dying every maybe a certain period of time because of some of these impacts of environmental degradation, it makes people to take action. So whoever's involved, if it's policymakers, if it's governments, if it is local communities, if it is youth, if it is women, those numbers inspire people to actually take action to make the world better. And also, as a storyteller, we aim to use very simple and understandable language. So as an environmental scientist, I'm very lucky to be a conservation storyteller because not all conservation storytellers have a background in science. And so I'm very lucky to be able to incorporate like science and my background in environmental conservation into my storytelling, because you realize that a lot of like in science, there's a lot of jargons and very complicated words. So as a storyteller, one of those things that you look to incorporate into storytelling is to be able to break down some of those complicated terms and jargons and scientific jargons to very simple and understandable language, so that even as people consume your storytelling and content, they're able to understand in simple language what climate change is, some of those impacts, and some of those very complex words that are used in science. So we try to incorporate that into storytelling so that we reach as many people as possible and also be able to reach everyone at all levels, from like the highest level to the lowest level, to people probably who have not had formal education, and just being able to let them also understand that as we move together towards this just transition, what is just transition? Why do we need it? And how does it affect our lives? So being able to use simple language and simple images, I think that also allows everyone that as we move to like more renewable energy, we move together with every one of us being able to understand the whole concept. So those are basically some of the elements that we try to incorporate into environmental conservation and storytelling efforts. My next slide. Yes, so like I said previously, photography is a very powerful tool, especially for human beings, and especially because we are visual beings, that we remember more what we have, what we see, compared to probably what we hear or what we read. So by using the power of storytelling, we can effectively like convey the obstacles, the possibilities, and the hopes linked to this transition. And this helps people from different backgrounds to understand, to empathize, and support the cause. So like I said, in the elements of conservation storytelling, it allows us to have everyone on board. So even the most learned people and the least learned people, we allow them to be part of that journey. And also that ensures that we have a smooth transition, because everyone understands why there's need to move to have that transition. And so from the highest level, and like I've said, even to the local communities, people probably who've not had any formal education, we're able to have everyone on board and have a smooth transition towards more renewable energy. Yes, so yeah, I think the images in the slides are some of the images I've had taken through over the weeks, over the years. So what is some of the roles of conservation storytelling in the just transition? So one of the roles of conservation storytelling in the just transition is to be able to like create awareness and also educate people So yeah, so like I've said, stories hold a tremendous power to bring attention to the pressing importance of just transition, because they shine a spotlight on the energy issues, damage to the environment, and unfair social conditions, so that through storytelling, we can emotionally connect with people, making these complex problems more understandable and relatable in our daily lives. So as I said again, we try to use as simple language as is possible, because when people understand uh, why we are having this transition, they're able to relate it with some of the things that they do in their lives. But you know, when you cannot, I know, and a lot of conservationists actually say that you cannot conserve what you do not know. So being able to, as a storyteller, you're able to educate people and create an awareness, so that you're not just doing conservation for the sake of it. You're doing it from a point of knowledge, from a point of understanding. And that helps for sustainability, because now you realize that the more you're doing this, the better you're making the world for you and probably subsequent generations. So as a storyteller, one of those important things that we try to do is to create awareness, is to also break down some of these policies and how they affect our lives. And I'm also following up on the charts, and I see what Julius is saying. Someone is saying a good idea would be to even do what? Yes, so I'll be looking at the questions as they come, and also any comments. Any comments, I'll be reacting to them as I see them. So a good idea would be to even share your pictures with well-known organizations that produce calendars, for instance, and let more people see your work and educated in the process. Yes, in neutral. I think I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah, that is very right. So, you know, as also conservation storytellers, we try to partner with organizations to be able to tell their stories, and actually like through images and through like videography, you're able to tell to give a voice to their conservation efforts, and to be able to tell like more about what they're doing, the people involved, and some of the achievements they're making through the various activities that they're doing in the conservation sector. Okay. Yeah, so I'll be quick. I think I do not have much time. So yeah, because I don't have much time. Yeah, so some of those images create awareness. Like sometimes during climate, during events like this, where climate activists come together to advance climate issues, we're able to communicate that through visuals, and even people who are not able to participate in events like that, they're able to follow up through social media. And yeah, so another role of storytelling in the transition is to be able to amplify community voices. Sometimes we realize that the marginalized communities, marginalized groups like women, youth, and all that, they do not have, their voices don't normally count in some of these policy discussions, so that we're able that through storytelling, we're able to amplify their voices and be able to communicate some of the issues that affect them even at the lowest level, at the local communities. We're able to have that incorporated into the just transition discussions, and to ensure that we all are moving as a team, that no one is left behind. There's that thing that is normally said about the just transition, that no one is left behind. So being able to amplify some of those voices allows for like no one being left behind as we transition into that into the just transition. So filling up knowledge gaps again is just about one of the roles again of storytelling, conservation storytelling, that we realize that there's so many people involved in the just transition dialogue. That we're having youth, we're having local communities, we're having youth, we're having governments, environmentalists, climate activists, and there's so many people involved. And so there are different opinions that using this, we're able to bring together. Storytelling comes here through using images. We're able to share perspectives and views that will also allow everyone to understand and come to a common ground. especially because so many people are involved in this dialogue. There's going to be divergent opinions, but through storytelling, you're able to like bring these opinions together, and so that there's a common ground as decisions are made regarding the just transition. Yes, so I think lastly will be to inspire action, which is actually the reason why we do storytelling, conservation storytelling and photography. The end goal of all that is to be able to inspire action, yeah? That by presenting conservation and climate stories that showcase successful conservation initiatives or the consequences of inaction, as a conservation storyteller, we motivate people to adopt more sustainable habits and become active participants in conservation and climate efforts, and particularly just transition, which is the reason why we're having this conference. And finally, that is my final slide, is that through storytelling and especially using photography, we can do away with myths around conservation and build trust with communities to have a smooth transition. Yeah, so I saw some of those myths. Yeah, at the first, one of the speakers covered some of the myths in the transition and the energy dialogue. You realize that some of those myths can be done away with through like the use of photography and conservation storytelling, that we help people to understand what is the truth and what is the myth. Yeah. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't take long. So if there are any other questions, probably I'll respond to 1 or 2 or 3 questions. And yeah, thank you very much for having me, and thank you so much for listening. Yeah, so I saw it's time to end. Yeah. Thank you so much, Excel. Probably I don't know if there's room for questions. Maybe I'll pick 1 or 2, and yeah, maybe other questions. Can take them much later, or probably get engaged on social media and across some of those platforms. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much, Sydney, for such a wonderful presentation. We can't really overemphasize the need for storytelling in our fight against climate change. It's very critical because, like we all know, these days, most people, our attention spans are so low and would rather engage with pictures, videos, than just literature. So in as much as we encourage us to do research, we also encourage everyone to as much as we can, to add storytelling to our work, as it's the easiest way of communication in our world today. Once again, thank you, Sydney, for the presentation. Thank you to everyone that has been here from 10 o'clock. You guys are the real MVPs. We know we've had 2 sections back to back, so we'd really love to go on a 5 minutes break. We'll be taking a 5 minutes break. Stretch your legs, drink coffee, take water, maybe some cookies, and then we'll be right back in 5 minutes. So we'll be taking a short break, and we'll reconvene and conclude with our last session in 5 minutes.
Most days, the sky.
Hello. Welcome back.
I hope we all enjoyed our break. As for me, I was busy dancing here, you know. The music was really vibing, and I'm sure we had a lot of people doing the same. I hope you stood up, you walked around. I actually did. Hope you had some water. My water is here. I've been sipping. It's very important. Okay, welcome back to the last session for today's event. But before we go on to the last speaker, we would want to welcome our climate poet who had some, okay, her profile is up already. She should have presented earlier, but due to network glitch, she wasn't able to do it earlier. So I'll just read her profile again, and then she'll have the floor. So about the speaker, Shigeru Aleruchi Delight is a Nigerian environmentalist and climate activist. She's the founder of an urgent concern environmental initiative, a thriving climate change education organization in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Through her work of transformational activism and education, she mobilizes people to take action for the planet. Some of her impact-based and solution-oriented projects include the Port Harcourt Climate Education Conference, which involved major stakeholders in environment, education, and media, climate change education and media, climate change education webinars for undergraduate students, street market sensitization, and recycle and chill, which was a tech in picnic bettered from her constantly inventing relatable ways to bring climate change education to young people. She's passionate about the education and involvement of young people in climate action. She presented a paper, Not Too Young to Enforce Positive Climate Change, at the Association for Environmental Impact Assessment of Nigeria's 6th annual conference in November 2022, and was awarded for the best paper presentation at the conference, with key topics in climate change, plastic pollution, impact, accumulation, and general views on pollution. Her blog has amassed hundreds of readers from across 21 countries. With a round of applause, let us make welcome Shigeru Aleruchi Delight. You're welcome, the floor is yours. I believe our speaker is on this call. Oh, we're still experiencing some network glitch. Let's just give our speaker some few minutes to join in and take over. We can't hear you. Hello, everyone. I believe our speaker is still experiencing some network glitch on her end. This is our sincere apologies. We'll just go right on to the next speaker. Hopefully, before the end of today's conference, the network issues will be sorted out and she'll be on. Okay, so we'll go right on to our last speaker for today, the last but not the least, in the person of Excel. I have Mefuli. Name is not complete here, but I kind of know him, so you know. All right, let me just quickly read his bio and then we'll go right into the last session. Meet Excel, a climate activist, environmentalist, socialpreneur, researcher, project manager, and safety officer. With a genuine love for poetry and art, Excel is passionate about finding sustainable solutions to socioeconomic, socio-environmental challenges. Excel works as a project manager at iRecycle, where he helps plan and monitor initiatives aimed at combating plastic pollution and promoting resilience among vulnerable communities. He is a proud member of the Yongo, the UNFCCC Youth Coalition, actively collaborating with global youth in the Water and Climate Working Group and the Loss and Damage Working Group to research and advocate for sustainable solutions to present and imagine water and climate concerns. In 2023, Excel led a team of youths championing projects in various communities within Rivers State, aiming to curb waste pollution, improve environmental awareness, and address climate change skepticism through research. Excel received a Climate Innovator Award from UNSDSN for his efforts and passion in creating a sustainable future. As the pioneer of Eden Wood Watch Hub, an eco-friendly wood watch business, Excel has planted over 300 trees across Africa. He volunteers at Sustain Vibes, a global youth-driven sustainability-oriented organization contributing to sustainability causes through research. His research practice. Oh, all right. We'll just go right into it and give up the floor for Excel. The floor is yours. Please, in the comment section, I want to see the fire emojis, the claps, as we welcome our last and final speaker for today's conference, Mr. Excel. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. And good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you're joining us. And I probably will not be able to put on my video because of network issues. So I think an audio will be better. So we'll be getting onto the final module for today, and I will be your trainer. And can we have the module up? And thank you so much for the introduction, and also to the climate environmentalists and the photographer that came on, Mr. Sydney. You did a very wonderful work, exposing us to how things are done from different perspectives. So while we wait for the, I hope everyone can hear me though. Can you hear me? Please indicate.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I would try and make it as lively as possible and as interactive as possible. And since we are talking about storytelling, I will try and use the things I learned from Mr. Sydney to also see if I can do some storytelling. And while we wait for the module, okay, I think it's up. So yes, so this is the module 3, which is the renewable energy for climate action, and we'll just get right into it. Now, in the next slide, Let's have the next slide, please. Okay, let us just give a minute until she comes up. Yeah, so this I think is up. So yeah, all good now. Thank you very much. Yes, so the next slide. All right, so we have some goals for this module, and by the end of this module, we expect that we would have global understanding on global climate milestones and key agreements. And we'll also understand the role of renewable energy in climate mitigation and adaptation. And then we are supposed to understand and grasp the importance of policies in transitioning to a sustainable energy future. And last but not the least, we should know and understand the importance of youth voices in decision making and youth-led advocacy. So we'll just get into the next slide. So yes, this slide is just talking about climate mitigation and climate adaptation. And I know that many of us are conversant with what climate mitigation and adaptation is, but for those who might be hearing this for the first time, and for those that will watch on maybe the pre-recording on a later stage, the climate mitigation are just actions that we take to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the adaptation is just simply trying to adjust existing systems to current and future effects of climate change. It's just trying to cope with the impacts of climate change. And this is just the brief explanation for the climate mitigation and climate adaptation. So we'll just move on to the next slide. Yeah, so in this slide, we're just going to have like a brief history of key milestones that we supposed to understand and have at least a brief understanding. So we also have resources out there in the internet. So we do implore every one of us to, after the session, try and read up on these key milestones, because it is very important to all of us in this space. Well, we'll talk about the recordings we've made available and the slides too. So after, we'll just get engagement in the group chat. So I will get right into it. The first one we're having is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. And this was in the 1980s, when the industrialization and the period of industrialization, we started understanding that, okay, there is something happening, we're having impacts, and people were not understanding where the negative impacts, the global warming, the flooding, the hurricane, typhoons, and cyclones, and they were like, okay, what is causing this? And some scientists said that, okay, this is attributed to climate change and is anthropogenic. So this is what human beings, like 90% of these are caused by human beings and caused by the burning, using of natural resources. But because then it wasn't a mainstream topic, so they had to come together and set up like a panel, which was in 1988. Actually, I think it was in December. So they came up with a plan to call scientists from around the world to look at the body of evidence supporting or disputing the claims on climate change, so that, okay, if you're having, so that we can have evidences that support this climate change and have reliable source, so that if people are talking and want to say, okay, this is the evidence or this is what is happening, they can have somewhere to go to. Then the next one is just talking, this is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So this, okay, so okay, I'm going to the chat box. If you also have any contributions, you can drop in the chat box while I will also read through it. So it will be like a interaction, but I will be your voice, and also helping with the presentation. So the UNFCCC, that's the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, after the IPCC was established, so there was now a consensus on climate change. The conversation now became mainstream, and then there was a need to establish a body that will try and limit dangerous human interference with the climate systems. And this had a membership of 198 parties. So it was established during the Real Earth Energy Summit in 1992. And this was just to support the IPCC and also to try and limit the greenhouse gas emissions. So they're basically looking at the developing countries. And then that is where we get to the next place, that which talking about the Kyoto Protocol. Now for the Kyoto Protocol, this was actually adopted in December 1997. But sadly, it became effective. It wasn't, there was kind of a delay based on getting countries to commit into the actions. And it became effective in 2005. But sadly, when it became effective, the already proposed plans were already out of date. So it has 192 parties. So how the Kyoto Protocol works is that it looks at developed nations and industrialized nations and say, okay, you have to cut your greenhouse gas, you have to limit your emissions. And it also opened the floor that developing countries can join, but it was not compulsory. It was just like, if you want to join, but it was majorly for the developed nations, trying to get them to commit and limit their greenhouse gas emissions in accordance to the agreement. Then we have the next one, which is like supporting the Kyoto Protocol. So it was after the Kyoto Protocol to which we call the Marrakesh Accord. So this was in 2001. And this was just set out rules for meeting the Kyoto Protocol. So they had lots of debates around the Kyoto Protocol and delays too. So, but to get the people moving, to get the ball rolling, we just have to set out plans. And this was done during the Marrakesh Accord. And then we'll be moving to the, let's say, the key milestone that everybody is, well, I say at least most people are conversant with this one and must have heard about it. So that's the Paris Agreement. And this is the most recent, being in 2015. And it was adopted during the Conference of Parties, that's COP21. And this stands to be the holds the record as the largest international treaty for different countries to sign an international treaty in a single day. And this calls not only, unlike the Kyoto Protocol that was now focusing on the developed nations. So after the Kyoto Protocol, they saw that it wasn't sustainable. So even if they said, and America, one of the big emitters, did not join the Kyoto Protocol, and even if they stop other big emitters and industrialized nations, if they don't stop the developing countries, they saw that, okay, like China, which was a developing country, now even outranked America as a big emitter, making up to 30% emissions. And if you just stop only the big emitters, that is, you're just controlling just 18%. That was what they saw. They saw that you're controlling just 18% of emissions. So what happens to the remaining 92 or 72 rather? And then they said, okay, we have to actually get the developed nations and the developing nations also engaged in this space. So this gave birth to the rise for the Paris Agreement. And here is just calling everybody to set targets. And then at the Paris Agreement, we have another key milestone which is the last one that we're going to see. And this was set out in the Paris Agreement. They also tried to set out plans for mitigation and also plans for adaptation. So in the adaptation, they just set out energy criteria and also the climate finance. So which was reflected in the loss and damage agreement in the 2022 COP27. So, and this just tried to create a climate finance scheme to help mitigate and adapt to negative impacts of climate change, from rising sea levels, loss and damage. And we know that most times they were focusing on the economic loss and damages, that's the ones they can put money on top. But we also have things that are non-economic loss and damages, loss of lives. You cannot quantify loss of life by money. You cannot quantify heritage, cultural heritage, ancestral artifacts, land. These are things that you probably cannot quantify, even languages. So displacements cost languages, and we know the impact of this, which is felt by the vulnerable developing nations, and we know that high. And because of the developing nations are more susceptible to this impact, they had to set out a climate finance to support them. And people ask, okay, is this finance because they are more wealthy? It's because they show that they have benefited from this industrialization and emitting, and their industrialization came at the cost of emitting, causing the greenhouse gas that we are having now, and most of the impacts that we're having now. So calling on climate justice and speaking on equity, they're calling them to say, okay, since you're part of the people that did this, you have to support the developing nations in bringing them up to standard, and also create as a strong support to them. And this was just how the the loss and damage agreement came about. So we know that we're already feeling the impact. We know this is not something that we have to tell someone. Each and every one of us on this call, we know of the flooding. We know of most African countries, most other countries, small developing island states are feeling it, and every one of us. And this is why there needs to be an integrated system of both climate adaptation and climate mitigation. So we'll be moving on to the next, where we'll just talk more on the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement, as we mentioned before, so it just, it tries to commit the countries, both developed and developing countries, to set out their plans and targets in what we call the nationally determined contribution. And these NDCs are just short-term plans or short-term goals. So, and it works on a 5-year cycle. So, and it's with the set targets that, okay, it's trying to limit global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level, or preferably 1.5 degrees. And we know the difficulties in getting to that. We already know we're already doing a lot of talking, but now we need to walk the talk. And this was also partly suggested by Professor Salimud Hawk, which is the director of ICAD, that's International Climate Change Panel. And he's also a special advisor to the COP28 president. And during our session where he was training us, and he mentioned that, okay, he spoke to the president and he told him, this COP28, we are done with all the talks. We need tangible action on loss and damage and the follow-up from the Paris Agreement and all. And they set out, developing nations set out 100 billion as climate finance to support the developing nations, specifically for climate adaptation and climate mitigation. And they are to come back it has a 5-year cycle. So you come back and then you look at, they do what they call global stocktake. So global stocktake is like 3 years after the NDCs are released. So we're having this COP28 is actually a global stocktake. So it's just to come and look at, okay, we've set 2025 plans. So 2025 targets, and we have a stocktake this year to look at, okay, are we meeting the target? Are we losing out on the targets? And the thing is that the Paris Agreement is not actually legally binding. So they try to put it in a way that it's going to be transparent and like how to communicate with countries so that to build trust and transparency. So that was the reason why there is no penalty for missing out on targets, and there is also no framework or system that ensures everyone meets their target. But they did it in a way that, okay, it's just like having a group of friends and then you come to an agreement, and these friends are now seen as countries. And then if we say, okay, everyone is going to keep quiet in a class, and then one person is making noise, that's you're being the big emitter, everybody cannot just flog you. But what will happen is that in the class, everybody, you'll be isolated. You feel a level of isolation and a level of shame that, okay, everyone is trying to put out efforts and you are not doing much. Meanwhile, those that are doing what is done will have recognitions and receive accolades for their efforts. So this is just how the Paris Agreement was set up. And the reason they did it like this is because each nation actually has their own sovereignty. So you cannot just, and we know how complex international laws are, how difficult they are to enforce. So, but instead of trying to enforce laws like that, try to do it on a transparent scale where everybody will communicate with one another and then come and look at the plans, that's the NDCs, on a 5-year scale and take global stock takes. And then from what they've done, from the successes or from the failures, they set even more ambitious plans. It's just like Ms. Sharon was talking earlier, that we need even more ambitious plans and targets to meet the 2030 goals and 2050 goals, because at the trajectory we are going, sadly, I must say that Mr. Hook, Professor Hook actually said that we are off target to meeting the 1.5 degrees Celsius actually. So what we should head for now is trying to limit it between 1.7 and 2 degrees Celsius, because for the 1.5, if it's for 2030, we are going to pass 1.5 degrees. That is the sad truth. But now that does not mean that we should stop our efforts, but we need to, yes, we need constant monitoring and evaluation for progress. And that is how the Paris Agreement works. So I think we'll just move on to the next slide. Okay, so the yes, I can see in the comments, yes, actually, so Africa, which is the, according to Mr. Enoch, said, but sadly, Africa as the most vulnerable continent to the negativities of climate change is set to reduce only 10%, to receive only 10%, which is true. We know that this loss and damage fund is actually very tricky and the whole thing. And that is why this COP28, we are calling for more youths. And this is why we're engaging in this space, because now we're not just, we know that there are a lot of politics in this, and there are a lot of, is not, even at the beginning, now we're having a lot of progress. At the beginning stage, during the IPCC and the Kyoto Protocol, it took them years to come to an agreement. And even when they came to an agreement, they had to take several years. Even when they came back, it was out of date. What they had to go on for the Marrakesh Accord. Now, I think we've seen this slide before. So we'll just scan through it. And if you look, it's just showing you that 0.5 degrees, 1.5 and 2 degrees, people will say, most people I talk to, like, what's the difference? It's just 0.5, and they feel like maybe 0.5 is just adding 0.5% to every impact, but it's not actually a linear scale. This is an exponential negative impact. So if we can see that for 1.5 degrees, we're already having negative impact. And then for 2 degrees, we're having even more negative impacts, like sometimes 10%, 2.3%, 0.6 meters more, and other ecosystem loss. And it's not just a linear scale. We're having way more impacts that we need to limit with our efforts and the efforts of everyone. And this is why we call on youth and other people, because our voices must be heard. It is not even a probability, and it is no longer an option. It is a must that we must speak out and also get everyone engaged. And yeah, I think we have a poll. So you just do well to share your thoughts on the poll, and we'll get right in. So just give me the next slide, please. Please, if I'm inaudible at any point, just okay. So for this, we have an activity, and we're going to nominate 2 people from our comment session. So the first person to nominate in the comment session, you act as the climate activist, and the second person to nominate themselves, we act as the layman or the person without information on this. So we're going to play like a role play, and we're giving you the opportunity now. It's just like 5 minutes, and just sit back and watch. You will talk about what you're going to do is just you give like an elevator pitch, but you're telling the other person the importance of the Paris Agreement to limiting to 1.5. So we're going to do it this way. You just anyone in the chat box. So I think the chat box, the first person to nominate themselves will be the climate activist. You just an opportunity to show yourself. Yeah, and you know that this is something that we've talked about, so it shouldn't be difficult, and just feel free to engage with us. So it's a learning process. Okay, Mr. Enoch, we have our climate activist up. So who will act as the layman or the common folk or the climate denier who is actually trying to understand the perspective? We have Ms. Ruth Asoye. So thank you very much. So sorry, Mr. Chisom, you just entered the different bus. So we've already moved. Well, thank you so much for the participation. And so yeah, you can unmute yourself, Mr. Enoch and Ms. Asoye Ruth. So how it's going to work, Ms. Ruth will just be like, okay, can you tell me the importance of why we need to stay below 1.5 degrees? And then Mr. Enoch will go ahead. Thank you.
All right, so I would like to first confirm whether I'm audible.
Very much.
So how is it going to be?
Confirm if you can hear you. If you guys can hear me as well. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you, Ruth.
So how is it going to be? She questions me or it's...
Yeah, she will just ask you just a quick question, like, Mr. Enoch, you as a climate activist, she will read out what is there on the screen and just make it like, instead of being generalized, she'll just make it personalized to you, and then you just give us an answer.
All right, so Ms. Ruth, I think you go first.
Yes.
Okay, let's do this. Mr. Emma, can you explain to me why we need to limit the global warming to, why does it have to stay below 1.5 degrees Celsius?
All right, so firstly is why we should keep these global temperatures below 1.5 degrees centigrade. Firstly is the negative impacts of that would happen in case these global temperatures go beyond 1.5. Yes, we recognize the fact, it is a recognizable fact that we need temperatures because they support human life and also make the planet livable. But notice that in case these global temperatures go beyond 1.5, this is going to translate into climate change externalities like, one, increased melting melting of icebergs, which necessarily is going to lead to like increased levels of the ocean, like increased sea levels, which at the end of the day can potentially lead to flooding. Now, the impact of flooding is it's well understood with this society. This looks like people losing their lives. This looks like damage or like destruction of properties, and also displacement of people from their homes. Then also secondly, in case like these global temperatures above 1.5, they're going to lead to some of these, the more these temperatures increase, the more people are exposed to these ultraviolet rays because of the increased temperatures. And this is a potential cause of different skin cancers, because these UV rays at different wavelengths or increased intensity are potentially carcinogenic, or they can lead to cancer. But thirdly, increase in these temperatures above 1.5 degrees could also mean us having some sort of drought, or where the different fertile soils cannot be able to produce the agricultural yield that we have at the end of the day. This necessarily translates to things like food insecurity, because one of the central tenets of food security is actually availability of food. When we have these increased temperatures, the crops are not going to essentially grow and maybe yield to the extent that they would have, leading to low production of food, which Of course, with increasing population in the world, is going to strain the already present food, and it is going to lead to like some sort of starvation. So I think it is important for us to limit global temperatures below 1.5 degrees, because as I've clearly painted for you, we cannot risk to live in a world that has temperatures above 1.5. I rest.
So thank you very much, Mr. Enoch. I think I not only needed a pen and a paper to, I think from your responses, I should be publishing a research paper from all the things that you have given us. So I just want to know.
Excellent job, excellent job, excellent job.
So, Ms. Ruth, are you convinced or
Yes,
confused?
yes. No, I was convinced. I was actually very impressed. I think I can even go through everything he said if that is allowed.
Oh, okay, okay. That is good. So,
Okay, he mentioned the negative impacts that would result from temperatures below 1.5 degrees Celsius. First of all, he talked about the increased melting of ice packs, and one of the things that could result is an increased sea levels, yeah, that would lead to flooding and loss of lives, homes, and properties. Second thing he mentioned was exposure to ultraviolet rays that could lead to cancer. And then the third thing he said was possibility of droughts. And droughts could lead to low agricultural yields that would in turn lead to low food production or food produce rather, and then lead to starvation. So it was very clear and straight to the point. Thank you, Mr. Enoch.
okay, so I think we no longer have a climate activist and a climate denier. What we have now is just two climate activists. So we'll just thank you so much, Mr. Enoch. Thank you, Ms. Ruth. And it's been a wonderful session because you just had your own session here on the spot. So yeah, we'll just be moving on to the next slide. So we're done with this activity. And yes, okay, we've had this before, so we'll just run through. So we know that normally people believe that renewable energy is mostly for climate mitigation, but this is a myth, and we have dispelled that myth in the first place, in the first module. So it's just saying that renewable energy is used for also climate adaptation, not just limiting the greenhouse gas effect, greenhouse gases, but also adjusting and adapting to them. Just like if you have a disaster, that is no longer trying to, whatever you're doing at that point is no longer trying to limit anything. What you're doing is trying to adapt to the disaster or cope with it. So that is where climate adaptation comes in. And renewable energy can help support transportation systems in driving clean energy, real-time monitoring, supporting water treatment. And in disasters, we know that an aftermath of disasters is mostly contamination, water pollution, and the whole thing. And water treatment needs sustainable energy to keep it up, and renewable energy can play a role. And I will not just go through all of this. And somebody asked about afforestation before, so it's also here. And for the afforestation, we know that, okay, even research, we need to do research, we need to do get seeds that are sustainable or that are better suited to absorb or act as like sequestrators in absorbing the CO2. And renewable energy can also support the engines where this is done, the labs where this is done. So some of these are direct impacts, while others are indirect impacts. But however, it plays a major role. So we'll just be moving on to the next slide. Yes, so, and then we'll talk about the big man in the room. So the climate mitigation. So, and according to IRENA, their World Energy Transition Outlook, which they publish yearly, and we do encourage you to also look this up from after the events. Just look it up, you see some distance. If they propose that for us to actually make a tangible impact, we need to cut down on emissions drastically by at least 36.9. And this was when they published this stuff, this was in 2021, I think. But currently, the updated thing is saying that we need to go as far as above 45 gigatons of CO2 annually. And this is what we need to cut down. And this is done in a centralized system, because we know that this climate change space is one of the spaces that needs everybody's contribution. And renewables, energy efficiency, electrification, hydrogen, fossil fuel-based CO2 capture and storage, and renewable energy CO2 removals. These are all the different systems that need to come together at their different capacities to actually get this boat sailing. So we'll just move on to the next slide. Yeah, still on the climate mitigation. So in this, we need to understand that our policies and investment choices play a major role in helping us either achieve this goal. And we also need to realize that this decade is a decade that decides a whole lot of things. If we are going to actually meet the 1.5, which sadly we can no longer meet that at 2030. But if we are actually going to limit between 1.7 or 2 degrees, if there is hope for us to do that, this is the decade that we have to do. And this can be done, and this works in a utilitarian process that is trying to is for climate energy, renewable energy is just for the renewable of people, planet, and prosperity. So this is just, people is just we, the communities, the planet is just the environment, and the prosperity is just sustainable development for nations. So it can work in all these spaces, and it helps all these spaces. And this can be done. All countries and regions have opportunity to realize the benefits of the transition, investing in policies that support inclusion, equity, and protect workers and communities. If we look at just an example in the Niger Delta, you can see the impacts of pollution, how it's affected them. And we have over 400 barrels that is oil spillage per day. So imagine 400 barrels per day, and the impact is having in the marine life, the lands, the air. So burning of things, and just using that as an example, and we have many more parts of the world that are going through similar things, and we need to actually phase out fossil fuel subsidies. But sadly, instead of phasing out fossil fuel, we have countries that are even, for example, Nigeria, we're building refineries and all. So which is still a work in progress, but we need to actually think of more things. And the climate change space is just a space that focuses on everything, on just, most people think that, okay, climate change is just, we're just trying to fight the climate. So climate change is about prosperity, is about poverty, trying to end poverty, trying to make the system sustainable. And we need to limit investments that go into oil and gas, and also pursue a path that will drive down non-renewable energies. So we'll just be going to the next slide. And all this needs to be done if we are to have any hope of achieving our 2050 goals. So in this place, we're still talking about the policies and the investment choices, and how they will help us drive a pathway to 2050. And despite the progress that have been made, just like there was something, I was looking at Miss Delight's post one time, and she posted something about the climate clock, and it was showing that we have barely 7 years, that's 6 years and something days, and we're in 13.something% renewables. So if you're looking at that, you're seeing the gap that we still have to cover. And we have 2030, we have not only 2030, we also have 2050 goals to meet. And now we're going to look at, we're tracking the progress of key energy systems. So the only thing that actually is on track is the renewable energy, the renewables. So if you look at this infographic, you're going to see on the far end of the right, you're going to see on track or off track. Now we have in recent years in the middle, 2050 by the right, and the indicators. So for the renewables, we're having a share of renewables in electricity generation. In recent years, we're just having about 26%, and it's projected that from this, we just chop pathways to 2025 through models. So the models say that, okay, from what we are doing, we actually might be able to get, we might not get on track, because if you're looking at the on track, we are close to getting on track, but sadly, we're not hitting that milestone. And if you look at every other space, both the electrification, if you look at, let's just look at energy efficiency and electrification, we're seeing that we're off track. If you look at hydrogen, clean hydrogen production, we see that we're way off track. If we look at the energy efficiency and the rest, we see that we are also way off track. And achieving the 2050 target depends on sufficient action by 2030. And this COP28 is a major milestone, because this is where a lot will be decided and a lot should be done. And we expect that they've done too much talking, they've talked a lot of talks, and now we need them to walk the talk. And this is the COP28 is where we hope that some of us here will also engage in the space, and we hope to see some of us in the COP28 representing us as ambassadors, and also helping to push the climate and renewable energy action. So we're moving on to the next slide. So yes, we've also had this slide before. So, but I will just give you a quick, if you look at the red line is our business as usual, or what we call the baseline energy sources. So it's where we are, and what this graph is just showing the net annual CO2 emissions against the removal. So with what we are doing now, if we continue with everything, the business as usual, we are heading for an impending doom, and it's not something that we actually can control. Now, if you look at the orange line, which is the middle line, so these are the planned energy scenarios. So this is just like, even if every country should apply the current policies that exist currently, because the NDCs and everything. So some countries like Nigeria, some are saying, okay, we will remove 50% greenhouse gas, we'll remove 20% greenhouse gas, we will limit 20%. So based on those their actions, if they do all those things that they presented in the NDCs, it still would not be enough. That is actually the truth. And this supports what Ms. Shalom said earlier about we being more ambitious. And if we're looking at where we want to be, we're going to see the blue line below. So for us to get to that blue line, we need a 100% transition. We don't need, it's not a half scale something where we say, okay, let's do this and let's do that. So it's just like what was happening around the Kyoto Protocol time. So when they said, okay, the developed nations will have to limit their gases and also have what they call carbon trading and carbon trading. And they told them, okay, if you're not meeting the targets, you can buy carbon credits from people who have actually past their target. And the thing became a problem because most people now said, okay, since we have restrictions in limiting in our own country, why not we go to Africa, go to other developing nations and put all those bad technologies there, and then in our own country will not be emitting, but we'll still be producing those in other countries. So, and that was what gave rise to the Paris Agreement that we spoke about. And for us to go to where we want to be, we're seeing that there is a very big gap, and hopefully we'll cover the gap, or we are about to see some interesting future ahead of us. So we'll look at the policies. So what are policies? So we know that policies are just simply like guidelines. Each and every one of us, we have principles, we have things. People say, okay, I'll wake up by 5 o'clock, I'll read, or I'll wake up and exercise, I'll wake up and do this, or I don't dance. Maybe if I don't dance or I don't do this. So these are your own policies. So, and some of them are binding. So when they are binding, it means that they are set into law. So they have been penned down, they have been agreed upon by maybe a legal body. And some of them are just based on guidance. It's just like, okay, the ones that are legally binding might have a penalty for missing out. So you can set a policy that, okay, we don't steal. If you steal, you go to jail. but you can also set a policy that is just guiding, like, okay, every student is supposed to read by at least 2 hours a day. It doesn't mean that if students don't read by that time, you will do something or you send them to a jail or that kind of stuff. So these are how the policies work. And we have different types of policies that will be looked we have the policies that for the national, global, and local levels. And we'll be having an activity later. So, okay, that is what we're having now. And we're going to have a poll that is coming up. So on your screen, you see, you just talk about what policies mean to you, just in your own words. So just help us. And you're contributing to a research, because all your data will be put in a report, an official report, and it also will be used for further research and also for other things. So just help us and answer. We're yet to get responses. I implore you to give your responses. The first one is just, what do policies mean to you? Just a short answer, one sentence is enough. The second one is, can you share some examples of policies in your daily life? And for that, you can give policies in your local, in your neighborhood. Maybe your city has a policy that you know about, or you feel, even if you're not sure, but this is what you feel is guiding the community or guiding your house or guiding your it doesn't have to be a legal policy or a binding policy. Both the guidance policies and the binding policies, just, you can put it up. Then the final one is just, why are they important to you? So do you think, why are policies, why do you feel like they're important? Do you feel like they're effective? Do policies help? Which do you prefer? Is it the binding policies? Okay, we're seeing answers are coming up. So do you feel policies the binding policies and the guiding ones? Do you feel, which of them? And we will have that your responses. Always that we have people on the call, and we also are contributing to this. Even if you don't know what to, just from your own knowledge, it doesn't have to be technical. In fact, we don't want any technical terms. Just give us in your own understanding. And yeah, I'm seeing responses, but they're still quite poor. We're not up to, we're still at barely 10% of the people here. So let's just keep it going. And we're almost done with the session. So let us do this. Yeah, thank you. I'm seeing more responses. And I'll just be here to just guide us. Yeah, thank you for the response. So what do policies mean to you? What are they? What does it do? How does it affect your daily life? And has it been positive? Has it been negative? Are there any positive policies that you think? Are there also policies that you feel like should be worked on, or your own personal principles? So just keep it coming, keep it coming. Yes, we're heading close to 20%. So at least we should be heading to 50% of participants of this event before we can have this. Yeah, and I will be this for the next part of this. That's the remaining few slides, just very few, I think barely 5 of them, and we'll be having our own team lead, Ms. Shalom Ibo, to take up the contribution. And this is where I would draw my own curtain and say a big thank you. And I hope the session was as educative and inspiring as the others who have come to set a good pathway for me. So just thank you and have a good day.
Hello. Can you hear me all right? Oh, I can see the emojis already. Yes, please, let's drop our reactions from Mr. Excel. That was really educative. I see we're still responding to the polls. Let's keep it coming. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Excel. Thank you, Mr. Excel. That was really amazing. Okay, I'll be guiding you through the other parts of this training. And as we do it, right? Your hands should be on the chat box because we're going back to the questions and we're going back to the interactions. And I really need, like, every one of us, this part is really easier to understand. I know the other parts where you have to have the UNFCCCs, you have to talk about intergovernmental panel, climate, all those ones usually look like they are technical and they are ambiguous, but these ones are just like the breakdown of what we've been listening to ever since. So on the World Energy Outlook 2022, so this is where IRENA is drawing all these conclusions from, and all this data we are seeing right here, it was drawn from the World Energy Transitions Outlook by IRENA. And the kind of policies that they have proposed that we need are policies on, someone is raising a hand, please can you just use the chat box? The poll is accessible to everyone. Just look on your meeting controls, or you check, or you click on more on your meeting controls, and you will be able to access the poll. All right. So what do we need? What type of policies do we need to transition our energy system? IRENA is saying that we need deployment policies. Now, and when I was studying the Rural Electrification Plan for Zambia, there were project packages that they had, and each project package should talk about the actions that they need to do, and they also need to talk about how they can implement those plans. So you have them, they concluded on using three modes of electrification. They concluded on using three electrification modes. The first is expanding their grid. The second was to introduce mini grids. And the third was to introduce standalone solar systems. So, but the problem is not planning. The problem is not making this, bringing the structure. The where the hard work is in putting out, integrating policies, and as well as like implementation policies. How do we assess this? How do we make this work? When do we implement the solar home systems? How many of them do we need? What kind of demands of energy do the consumers need? What particular mode should it be expanding the grid? Are they connected to the national grid or not? How far are they from the national grid? What kind of enabling, we call it the GCS, that's like the centers that really like produce the money, the hospitals, the schools, because one thing is to have energy, another thing is to use it productively. So in order to use energy productively, you need to electrify the resource centers that are going to be generating income for the economy. So you have schools, you have hospitals, you have health services, you have educational centers. So all of these are like the policies. We need policies to be able to do this, to be able to implement this. And they went further to say that in sub-Saharan Africa, the reasons why we've not had so much progress is because we do not have sound regulatory framework. Yes, the Rural Electrification Agency, they are working on so many plans, but the problem is the framework around it. Sometimes we do not have cost-reflective tariffs. And from the Electricity Act that was being implemented, you find out there are still lapses in understanding how the private sector will invest and what exactly the private sector will invest in. Because we need, so even if we assess money, they need to know what they want to, they need to know the project they're going to invest in, and they need to also know the risk, the amount of risks that they stand when they invest in this project. And these are what are incorporated in sound regulatory frameworks. So even though we know we need policies, we need to figure out deployment policies. We need to figure out integrating policies. We need to also create the enabling policies. that is where the society comes in. So you see that within the deployment and integrating policies, it's usually like falls under the energy and the economy, because we need to create policies that will be reflective in the economy. Then the next is reflecting on the society. And this is where you have structural change and just transition policies. What does that mean? You cannot allocate money equally, because we do not have climate change effect equally. We don't. The vulnerable communities do, like, you know, the thing about COP27 was the issues of, oh, this is the global north, this is the global south, and let us allocate more funds to the global south. Truly it is, right? And the global south is really very vulnerable. So you cannot allocate equal investment. You need to do a just allocation, just transition, just, it simply means allocating resources equitably, not equally, but equitably. So you need to analyze, assess what these people need and how they need this, and this is, and you need to now send your, like, you need to now put the investment as they are experiencing the climate change crisis. And then finally, the holistic global policy framework, which is going to be reflective on our planet, because whatever we do, we are not insignificant to the changes on the planet. All our activities are reflecting on the planet. And that is why this course are here for policymakers within this call and beyond to be able to create more policies in accelerating this. All right, I'll move to the next slide. All right, so on the next slide, we have so many countries with different net zero targets. And the truth is this: we need to move from proposals and pledges to inclusion in policy documents, laws, and actual achievements. Sincerely, as you can see, you know, they've made the demarcation. This is the least developing countries, the low developing countries. We have the SIDS, that's the small island developing states. We have the cost of this climate. They are ones that are making the biggest emission in our country, in the world. These are the high emitters. And the current G20 meeting will be happening in India. I had a friend that reached out to me through Instagram, and we're working on some policies that we need to propose to them during that G20 conference. And we have others, like those that are just living, let's say, average countries. They are not doing too much, and they're not doing too little. So they have their own contributions, like, equally. So you see that for the least developed countries and SID. So what do you do for me? Everyone, the country, figure out your country right now and tell me where they are being classified. Figure out from the maps. I hope we can see them. Find your country. I'm looking for mine as well, and tell us where they are falling, where the category they are falling into, and what's the declaration. Have they declared? Are they pledging? So the declaration of pledge and NDC, they have their policies in place, they have a plan in place to be able to cut down emissions. And the proposed and in discussion is those that, like, I'm sorry guys, if you're from Nigeria, I think I'll have to use Nigeria as an example. So from Nigeria, someone has already said that. I want to say that. And yeah, Nigeria is under others. So no, wait now, Ruth, there's Nigeria. Don't bring us out like this. Nigeria is there. Nigeria is under under others, and we have we have the other declaration of pledge. So Nigerian has pledged to Oh wow, Zambia proposed and in discussion. True, yes. I've been looking at the Rural Electrification Plan for Zambia, the master plan, and I make reference to that a lot because I interact with that, with the information there. So Nigeria has pledged. I spoke with during the NDC partnership forum. I was part of the moderators. We had someone, Tosin. Tosin was part of the people that reviewed the NDCs for Nigeria. Yes, for the current one Nigeria has proposed, he was a part of it. So the next time we're going to be reviewing is in 2026. So we reviewed in 2021, and the next we're going to be, remember, is after 5 years. So we're going to be doing another review in 2026, and we will now be bringing out our global stock takes. So you can find that, yeah, I can see a lot of people. Oh my God, Indians are one of the highest emitters, but one thing that I also love about the country is that they are also there in the declaration stage, right? They've also pledged, and they are already making their moves concerning like the documentation and then the achievements of the goal. Okay, I see Zimbabwe is also proposed. Okay, they are in proposed and in discussion. That means they have not even, they've not like talked about anything. They are just still in the discussion phase. While those, I'm not seeing anyone from the achieved level. Wow. You know, people from Gabon, Liberia, Guinea-Bissau, Benin, Madagascar. You know, these countries have things that are interesting. They are already working on. So this means that Gabon, to some extent, has achieved a part of what they had proposed. So this is just like a reflection of what they have achieved as regards to the policy and the documents they have developed. You know, it will take a longer time for a country like US to develop their policies than the countries in than the countries in Africa that has little or, you know, less considerations. So you find out that they have much more advantage in achieving their policy than these huge countries that are still looking for ways to decarbonize. I mean, India, Australia, South Africa, you know, this one's European Union, they have the highest fossil fuel invested machines, and so they cannot just completely decarbonize. And yes, I don't know, for those that are not even on the chart, you know, there are still some countries, I think like Russia, because I can see it, some countries like Russia that are not interested. I wouldn't use the word interested. They are reserved on their what should I call it, on their commitments. So they haven't declared. So we do not know if they are, if it's tentative, if they are working on it or not. So those kind of countries are countries that you know, we are still like taking the news back to them, because in Russia, their coal mines are numerous. They have gas, you know, they are the highest producers of gas after Saudi Arabia, and they have so much investment in the fossil fuel. So it will take them a longer time to be able to commit and then subsequently decarbonize. And this is just like just a little activity. Well, this activity has to do with a handout, but the handout is not available, so we will take the next one. And this is where every one of us is involved. Youth voices in decision making. I will tell you that you don't need to be in the government to be a part of the decision makers. You can be in your institution, you can be in your industry and take part in making the decision to transition to a clean source of energy, or at most having some climate commitments, saying no to plastic, saying no to environmental pollution, embracing sustainability. So we as young youth voices, we need to understand that it is now, we need to take this seriously. It's our future we are talking about right now. This elderly people, they would still go away and leave the planet to us. So we need to start making our voices heard. We need to tell them what we need to see in reflective in the policies that are making. So I'm always talking about countries that already have youth delegates. They have United Nations Youth Envoy. Some countries like UAE, they already have their youth envoys. I met the lady when I was in the conference in London, and she was, she told us that at COP28 that youth will not be observers, that they are coming in as negotiators. They are going to be taking part in the negotiation of the climate and they're going to be taking part in negotiating. They're going to be taking part in bringing our demands to see that they are really this out there and countries. They should also center young people as drivers of change. They should be inclusive in of the voices of children and young people, and this is very essential. Okay, because commitments in policy and action that can strengthen. So we need more commitment in our policies that can strengthen child critical social services to be more climate and disaster resilient. And we need policies and actions that are inclusive of all children and young people's rights, their participation and role as stakeholders and drivers of change. So this is very important. And up till now, we have about 167 NDCs that has been analyzed upon 41 indicators under 4 criteria. The reason why this research was done was basically to show a reflection of what the position of young people and children in the NDCs. What sort of NDCs are affecting, like what sort of NDCs are impacting on the children and young people. And then they analyzed the risk and vulnerabilities. They checked about, they made references. They checked for where, which laws or which commitments clearly points youth. And then they also check for places where youths have rights and where they are inclusive. So one of it is the Action for Climate Empowerment that took place in Bonn, Germany. Mary Dara was there as well. Mary Dara, one of our trainers, was there in Bonn during the Action for Climate Empowerment and also the SB 58 events that happened in Germany. So what are the key findings? So we are kind of saying that they're saying that overall, we have 41% of the NDCs that meets at least 3 criteria for child sensitivity. So out of 167 country NDCs, we just have about 51%. But the problem is the other part says 59% do not meet the criteria. 32% just met one of the criteria that we had highlighted, while 8% met 2, 19% met none. So you see that within the 59%, that out of the 167 country NDCs, just 41 met them, and 59 was not showing a reflection of all. Some just 32 had one criteria, maybe it was about multi-sectoral, and they do not have so many references. So the next is on the tool of references. We have 65% of the 167 NDCs contain meaningful references to children and young people. And then right-based 24% reflects the rights of children and intergenerational equity. And then we have 52% have child-sensitive commitment in at least 2 of 9 sectors in the study. So there will be, okay, the attendance is now in the chat box, but one thing that we must note is do not share this attendance outside here. Just fill your own attendance, and the project group will be shared afterwards. And then another link will be coming up now about the Climate Watch map. So it will be shared with from my team members. And you can also use your phone to scan the QR code so you can explore all the indices. So I love this because it will help you to know what your country had committed to achieving, and it will also help you to be able to reference that. Maybe when you get to COP28, you will know what exactly you're going there to do. You would know what your country is already doing, and you will know how to contribute actively to the discussions at COP and beyond. And then we have, finally, this youth-led advocacy plan. So this is the project that we are going to be doing right away. So I'm going to put us all in a breakout room. Simply, the breakout room is the place where you were going to work on this youth-led advocacy plan. And this plan is to be submitted at before our next section on Saturday, the 22nd. So in your groups will be shared now. Once you get into your group, you get to nominate a leader. We have our teammates, our experienced teammates that are going to join you there. They're also going to moderate what's going to happen in the breakout room. When you get there, nominate a leader that is going to pioneer, that is going to facilitate this plan. And then you can also create another WhatsApp group chat where you would discuss how you're going to address this advocacy plan. And finally, you're going to put it in a document and submit to us before the next section. And our teammates will be able to give you all of the information after this presentation. So please stay put while we create the breakout rooms, and it will be assigned automatically, so you do not need to move around. So it will be assigned automatically. So the first question, okay, let me just create. Okay. While I sort out the, so you see an icon to join a breakout room. So you can join right away. We have facilitators for each of the breakout rooms. Yes, we have all our representatives on each of the breakout rooms. So just go ahead and join. And let me assign another. I'm not seeing a lot of us joining. Sign the attendance and just move into your breakout rooms. And this is the last activity. After this, we are closing. So we are encouraging you to join so that you will do this. And this also contributes to the criteria for you to get a certificate. So it's very important that you join. Join the breakout rooms I see some of us have not joined. Should I, is there a way to assist you? Please let me know in the chat box in case you've not joined. Oh, welcome back. I hope you had a nice time in our breakout rooms.
Yes, we did.
Sure, we did.
Don't worry, I would share the attendance once again now. And then for those that weren't able to join the breakout rooms, for those that weren't able to join their breakout rooms, I was going around, but I couldn't hear some of us. So if you remember your breakout room number, you can just go to our chats, our group chat. The leader should just create the subgroup link and share with us and share with the group chat so that people can be able to join from there. So this is the attendance. Yes, please, let's just go to the meeting group chat, create your group, your subgroups, and send the links to you. Send a link to the main chat room. But if you weren't assigned any room, do not join any room yet. You do not join any room yet. Just reach out to me or any of the co-hosts that you're seeing currently. Group 7 has already posted their group chat, so please do well to join if you're in group 7. And I think we are ending here today. We are ending here today. And I want to say thank you to everyone that made out time to be here. Thank you for joining us. And I'm grateful that you were able to have a lovely section here. So please, let's keep the group links, keep sending on the group chat, the general group chat. We had about 8 rooms, but I think I dissolved breakout room 1. So we only have about 7 rooms. Ensure that you sign the attendance before you leave this chat, before you leave the group. All right, while we're doing that, can we turn on our cameras? I want to see our beautiful faces, our handsome faces. It was such a lovely section. We want to take a group picture. Oh, no, please don't go yet. Let's take a group picture.
I'm in the buka. I'm in the buka
Let's
eating.
turn our
You see me
cameras.
eating.
Oh my God, I see lovely faces out there. Let me do some adjustments. Please turn on your camera. We're going to give time for people to turn on. Please turn on.
I'm having my lunch in the buka.
Can I join you?
Please turn on your camera so that we can have a good picture. Yes, I can see beautiful faces. Oh, thank you so much for joining. We really do appreciate your time here. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. I wish to see more faces than with a cute smile. I've seen a lot of people already smiling. I've seen a lot of people already smiling. Okay, I'm still waiting on some of us to drop our to turn on our videos. Okay. Okay. Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
sorry,
Please
let
more.
me answer the question. One,
Please more.
yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I know a lot of you are already
So
smiling, and I'm sure you're getting weak from smiling. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm taking the pictures now. All right. 1. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Thank you. I'm taking another one. Okay. I'm taking lots more. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. All right. Thank you so much for joining, everyone.
Shalom, let
Thank
me
you.
address
And we
some.
meet again. Please do well to join all your breakout
Thank you.
rooms.
Very insightful.
Link has been shared. The moderators are supposed to be determined by you and your group members. So, and we hope that we can take on the leadership. This is what we've been talking about, youth-led actions. If we can start now to start taking actions in planning. So you just take someone and you can share facilitate the advocacy plan and do Saturday before the next Saturday. And then if you do not have any group at all, do not just join any group. Please reach out to me and I will give you the group number you should join. All right, thank you so much everyone for joining. Do have a lovely day. I will convene again next week, Saturday. I don't know if our moderator has anything to say. Thank you.
All right. We want to say, from the entire team, we want to say a very big thank you to everyone who joined this call, most especially for our very special and elite group. You see how I'm garnishing my elite group with all these nice words. Those who joined from the very beginning and stay till the end. Like I always say, you guys are the real MVPs. We hope to see you same time next week, Saturday. Hopefully, with all your group work and assignments done. And we have a surprise. We won't say what we're going to give to the best group. So let's just wait till next week Saturday to see the group that will come up tops. All right, once again, thank you. And from the entire team, we say have a lovely weekend and see you same time for the last session next weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
I'll still be here in case anyone has not joined the group. So you can wait behind if you've not joined the group yet. Oh, music. Okay. On it.
I'm waiting for a cool.
And please, can you give us the instructions to join the group?
Most days.
Shalom, can you hear me? Derek says he's yet to be assigned a group.
Yeah, Shalom. I want to ask you, how can I join the group 3 or group 6? You said group 3, right?
Yeah, group 3. Are you on the main WhatsApp group chat?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay.
So,
Just
but
type.
they didn't send the link for the group 3.
Okay, they haven't sent it. All right, let me ask about that.
Yeah, I can see only group 7 who has sent their link. What's up?
Okay, let me see if I can find someone. You drop the WhatsApp group link on the main chat box. So group leaders, please drop your subgroups on the main chat box. Okay, group 6 has posted.
Okay, thank you, Shalom. I can see now the link.
Okay, and then you can also create the group and then ask others to join.
Okay, I will do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Dave. Head of marketing at a ketchup company about to use Grammarly to handle a tight deadline.
I might have to get this. Oh my god, I have to get this.
Think I drank too much again. Looks like fun, but it's pretend. Why do I try to fit in when I just wanna go home? And I know this isn't like me, I just want people to like me. Got my glass up in the air, and I act like I don't care. And I take some, but I shouldn't. And I say things that I wouldn't. And I'm just part of the crowd, but I feel better now. So keep on playing that song that I don't like. I just wanna feel normal for the night. Keep on kissing that guy that's not my type. I just wanna feel normal for the night. I should go, it's getting late, but I'ma keep on dancing till I feel okay. So keep on playing that song that I don't like. I just wanna
What the fuck just happened?
Taking pictures in the dark, smoke it up till I can't talk. Fooled myself almost, forgot that I just wanna go home. And I know this isn't like me, I just want people to like me. Got my glass up in the air, and I act like I don't care. And I take some, but I shouldn't. And I say things that I wouldn't. And I'm just part of the crowd, but I feel better now. So keep on playing that song that I don't like. I just wanna feel normal for the night. Keep on kissing that guy that's not my type. I just wanna feel normal for the night. I should go, it's getting late, but I'ma keep on dancing till I feel okay. So keep on playing that song that I don't like. I just wanna feel normal for the night. I just wanna feel normal for the night. I just wanna feel normal. So keep on playing that song that I don't like. I just wanna feel normal for the night. Keep on kissing that